Round the World Lit Audio. Animal Farm by George Orwell. Episode 1. Chapters 1 to 3. Full narration script. Channel intro. Welcome to Around the World Lit Audio, the greatest novels ever written, from every corner of the world, in English. New chapter every week, free to listen. Series introduction. Today we begin a new book, Animal Farm, by George Orwell, published in England in 1945. One of the most widely read political allegories ever written, and one of the most searched audiobooks on YouTube, because it is assigned in virtually every high school curriculum in the English-speaking world, and because its argument, made in 1945 about the Soviet Union, has proven applicable to a considerably wider range of situations than its author perhaps intended. George Orwell, whose real name was Eric Arthur Blair, was a British writer, journalist, and committed democratic socialist who had fought in the Spanish Civil War and had watched, with specific and personal dismay, the way the Soviet Union had transformed the promise of socialist revolution into the reality of Stalinist totalitarianism. He wanted to write about this transformation in a way that was accessible, clear, and impossible to dismiss as abstract political theory. He wrote a fable. Animals on a farm overthrow their human farmer and attempt to run the farm themselves, on the principles of equality and common ownership. What follows is the story of how those principles are systematically dismantled by the pigs, who rise to lead the revolution, and how the language used to justify the dismantling is more important and more dangerous than the dismantling itself. It is 120 pages long. It took Orwell 4 months to write. He finished it in 1944 and spent a year trying to find a publisher willing to print it, because the Soviet Union was at the time Britain's wartime ally, and criticizing it was considered politically inconvenient. It was finally published in August 1945. 2 weeks after the atomic bombs fell on Japan. It has never been out of print. Episode 1. Chapters 1 through 3. Chapter 1. The Meeting in the Barn. Mr. Jones of Manor Farm was a drinker. This is established at the opening of the novel with the same flat certainty that Kafka establishes Gregor Samsa's transformation, as fact, without preamble, as the first thing you need to know about the situation you are entering. Mr. Jones was a drinker. He drank enough that he forgot to feed the animals, and forgot to lock the henhouses, and forgot, on some evenings, to do much of anything at all except drink and fall asleep. One night in late summer, when Mr. Jones had locked the henhouses and gone to bed, leaving lights in all the farm buildings, word spread through the farm that Old Major wished to communicate something to the other animals. Old Major was the prize middle white boar, 12 years old, enormous, majestic in the way of an animal that has lived long enough to develop the specific authority of age and size simultaneously. He was respected. When he called a meeting, the animals came. They came from across the farm, the horses Boxer and Clover, the donkey Benjamin, the goat Muriel, the cat who was warm on her hay, and arrived at the last moment, and left immediately when the meeting was done, the hens, the ducks, the dogs, the sheep, the pigeons, the young pigs from Major's own litter. They settled into the barn, and Major, from his bed of straw on the platform, looked out over them with the patient attention of a creature who has something important to say and is making sure everyone is present before saying it. He said, "Comrades, I do not think I shall be with you many months longer. Before I die I wish to pass on to you such wisdom as I have acquired." He described the life of an animal on a farm. He described it without embellishment, the birth into servitude, the labor that produced results consumed by the human, the slaughter at the end when productivity ceased. He described the arithmetic of the farm with the precision of an economist. England was fertile. England could support 10 times its current animals in comfort. The animals did the work. The humans took the product. Where did this lead? The same place it always led. The cow's milk drunk by humans. The horse worked until broken, and sent to the knacker. The pig slaughtered at a year old. The dog drowned when too old to work. He said, "Is this not simply part of the natural order?" That is what they would have you believe. But comrades, is this true? No. England is fertile. We do the work. The only thing we lack is the will to take what is ours. He said, "Man is the only creature that consumes without producing. He does not give milk. He does not lay eggs. He is too weak to pull the plow. He cannot run fast enough to catch rabbits. Yet he is lord of all the animals. He sets them to work. He gives back to them the bare minimum that will prevent them from starving, and the rest he keeps for himself." He said, "Remove man from the scene, and the root cause of hunger and overwork is abolished forever." He said the word, rebellion. He said, "I do not know when that rebellion will come. It might be in a week or in 100 years. But I know, as surely as I see this straw beneath my feet, that sooner or later justice will be done." He taught them a song. The song was called Beasts of England. It had a tune somewhere between a march and a hymn, and the words described a future, green fields, no humans, the animals running free, the harvest belonging to those who grew it. He sang it and the animals joined in and they sang it 5 times through, with increasing enthusiasm, until Mr. Jones woke up and fired his gun into the darkness, and they scattered to their sleeping places. Old Major died 3 nights later, peacefully, in his sleep, but the seed had been planted. Chapter 2. The Rebellion. 3 months passed. In those 3 months, the pigs, who were acknowledged as the cleverest of the animals, had taken Major's teachings and developed them into a system of thought called animalism. The chief pigs were 3, Snowball, Napoleon, and Squealer. Snowball was vivacious and inventive, a quick thinker and a good speaker. Napoleon was a large, rather fierce-looking Berkshire boar, not much of a talker, but with a reputation for getting his own way. Squealer was a small fat pig with very round cheeks, and a way of skipping from side to side while making his points that was somehow very persuasive. They held secret meetings in the barn. They taught the other animals the principles of animalism. They argued against the objections. Moses the Raven's stories about Sugar Candy Mountain, where animals went after death, heaven, religion, the opiate of the masses, Orwell said, and meant the Soviet position on the Orthodox Church, and the animals who said that Mr. Jones gave them food and without Mr. Jones they would starve. Snowball and Napoleon argued. Mr. Jones feeds you so that you can work for him. You do not need Mr. Jones. You need each other. The rebellion, when it came, was not planned. It came in June, when Mr. Jones had drunk more than usual and had forgotten to feed the animals for an entire day. The animals broke into the store shed. Mr. Jones and his men came to drive them out with whips. And something happened. Something that happens when people or animals who have been planning revolution for months encounter the specific reality of the thing they have been planning, which is that the reality has a different quality from the plan and often moves faster. The animals fought back, not with strategy, with the accumulated weight of things that have been enduring for a long time and have reached a limit. They kicked and bit and butted and the men found themselves, in a way they had not anticipated, losing. They ran. They left the farm. The animals stood in the farmyard and looked at each other. They had done it. They ran through the farm, through every building, checking that no humans remained, looking at the things the humans had left. They burned the nose rings and the dog chains, and the knives for castrating and all the instruments of human control. They looked at the farmhouse and decided, by common agreement, that no animal would ever live there. They changed the name. Manor Farm became Animal Farm. They painted the 7 commandments on the wall of the barn, in large white letters. Whatever goes upon 2 legs is an enemy. Whatever goes upon 4 legs, or has wings, is a friend. No animal shall wear clothes. No animal shall sleep in a bed. No animal shall drink alcohol. No animal shall kill any other animal. All animals are equal. They read them aloud. Most of them could not read well enough to read them independently, but Snowball read them and they listened and they felt the specific satisfaction of principles, stated clearly, of a world in which the rules are fair and visible and the same for everyone. Then the cows needed milking. The pigs milked them. There were 5 buckets of milk. The animals asked, "What will happen to the milk?" Napoleon said, "Never mind the milk, comrades. That will be attended to. The harvest is more important. Comrade Snowball will lead the way. Forward, comrades. The hay is waiting." When they came back in the evening the milk had gone. Nobody mentioned it. Chapter 3. How Animal Farm Prospered. The harvest was the best the farm had ever produced. This was partly because the animals worked with a will that Mr. Jones had never inspired, and partly because the pigs, who were the organizers and directors of everything, proved to be genuinely effective at the work of management. Snowball formed committees. Napoleon educated the young dogs, who had been born just before the rebellion, taking them away from their mothers, and raising them separately. Everyone had tasks. Everyone contributed according to their ability. Boxer was the most admirable of all. He was, by any measure, the best worker on the farm, enormous, powerful, with a personal motto he had invented: "I will work harder." Whenever there was a difficulty, whenever something needed to be done that required more effort than anyone else could supply, Boxer supplied it. He rose earlier than anyone else. He stayed later. He worked until the work was done. He had a second motto that he had adopted from Napoleon: "Napoleon is always right." Benjamin the donkey had no motto. Benjamin was the oldest animal on the farm and the worst-tempered, and the cleverest. He read as well as any pig. He never exercised this ability. He was cynical about the rebellion and cynical about the 7 commandments and cynical about everything, but he never said why, and his cynicism never led him to action. He did his work and said nothing. He said only, "When pressed, donkeys live a long time." None of you has ever seen a dead donkey. The pigs established for themselves a number of privileges. The windfall apples were collected and brought to the harness room for the pigs' exclusive use. The cow's milk was mixed every day into the pig's mash. When the animals asked about this, Squealer explained. He said, Comrades, you do not imagine, I hope, that we pigs are doing this in a spirit of selfishness and privilege. Many of us actually dislike milk and apples. Milk and apples, this has been proved by science, comrades, contain substances absolutely necessary to the well-being of a pig. We pigs are brain workers. The whole management and organization of this farm depend on us. Day and night, we are watching over your welfare. It is for your sake that we drink that milk and eat those apples, he said. Surely, comrades, you do not want Jones to come back. Nobody wanted Jones to come back. Nobody said anything more about the milk and apples. The flag was raised every Sunday morning. It was green, the green of the English countryside, with a hoof and a horn painted on it. They held meetings. They sang Beasts of England. The 7 commandments stood on the barn wall. Everything was as it should be. There were already 2 factions developing, Snowballs and Napoleons. On every question on which there was a view to be taken, they took opposite views. The animals were not sure what to think. Napoleon, as usual, said little and moved quietly. The summer of the rebellion was a good summer. No one asked about the milk anymore. Chapter Transition. You have reached the end of episode 1 of Animal Farm, by George Orwell. Chapters 1 through 3. Old Major has spoken. The rebellion has happened. The 7 commandments are painted on the wall. The harvest is in. The milk and the apples are going to the pigs. Boxer is working harder. Benjamin is saying nothing. And Napoleon is moving quietly. In episode 2, the humans try to take the farm back. The windmill becomes the central question, and Napoleon makes a move that changes everything. Episode 2 is available next week. Subscribe to Around the World Lit Audio so you never miss a chapter. A new episode arrives every week.